Qatar are brokering the deal.
We are very close to an agreement, but we are not there yet. As you have heard us say a number of times over the course of the past few weeks, nothing is final until everything is final.
State Department spokesman Matthew Miller, the Justice Department says Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, and its CEO will plead guilty to money laundering and to pay fines of more than $4 billion. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says Binance gave criminals free rein,
supporting activities from child sexual abuse to illegal narcotics to terrorism across more than 100,000 transactions.
Founder Changpeng Zhao will step down as CEO. The big Thanksgiving getaway is underway.
The airlines have done lots of work trying to prevent weather from causing their schedules to fall apart like we saw in recent years at United, Delta, Southwest, and Spirit. To give you an idea of just how well it's going despite weather moving into the Northeast, on the other side of the country, LAX is leading for canceled flights in the U.S., and LAX has only had 2 canceled flights. United is the airline with the most. It's canceled 9 flights around the globe, which is under 1% of all of its flights.
ABC's Alex Stone in Los Angeles. The number of agencies are watching an oil spill off the coast of Louisiana. More than 1 million barrels may have spilled from a pipeline near Plaquemine Parish. Officials say no one has been affected on shore, and so far boat traffic is still operating normally. You're listening to ABC News.
California's capital city is on Trancas. KFBK, Sacramento's News Radio.
At 3:02, I'm John Bernizzi with your top local stories on KFBK News Radio. The California Public Utilities Commission is updating solar power incentives for businesses, apartment buildings, and schools. And critics say the changes actually amount to disincentives. KFBK's Matt Bassini has more.
Anthony Wexler with the Air Quality Resource Center at UC Davis says with the new rules, you won't get as much of the rebate as you used to. Also built into the new rules is a mandate that raises what the installer's wages are, therefore increasing the cost of the panels. The Commission reduced homeowner incentives last December for solar. Commissioners said the changes are need to reverse what they call unfair subsidies. Matt Bassini, KFBK, Sacramento's News Radio.
Police say driving while high on marijuana is just as dangerous as driving drunk, but almost nobody is being prosecuted for it. Officials say the problem is, even though people may be dangerously impaired, there's no legal limit level for pot like there is with alcohol.
Not what you're supposed to do.
Officials say there's no specific vehicle code for it, so it's lumped in
Very
with the term
illegal,
DUI. With alcohol
dangerous.
and other drugs, DMV data shows the number of drug-related fatal crashes has quadrupled over the last 25 years. And the holiday rush is on. Traffic outside the KFBK studio window has been much thicker than the usual Tuesday. Airport and rail officials expect record numbers before the weekend is over. Traffic and weather together. Let's check in with Dana Hess.
Thank you very much. Brought to you by your future Ford dealers. A westbound 80 Truxell Road had a non-injury collision if their freeway service patrol was there. CHP as well. Reported a lot of smoke near the roadway southbound I-5 Florin Road west off-ramp. Brush fire, they say, and again, lots of smoke. Coming out of the Woodland area, very sluggish, well before you get to the bypass. That's going to be off and on until you get down Arena Boulevard, and then it's going to kick in again from I-5 all the way to 50. I should say 80 all the way to 50. And if you're going, westbound on 50, it's going to be slow and go, starting around 65th Street all the way to I-5. And now is the time to buy a Ford at the biggest sale of the year happening now at your future Ford dealers. The Ford you want is a future Ford. 2 locations to serve you. Future Ford of Sacramento at I-80 and Madison, and Future Ford Lincoln in the Roseville Auto Mall. Traffic on the 10s every 10 minutes, mornings and afternoons. Dana Hess, KFBK News Radio, 93.1 FM, 1530 AM.
Interval of clouds with sunshine this afternoon. Highs will be in the mid to upper 60s. Partly cloudy and chilly tonight, lows between 36 and 40. Partly sunny tomorrow, highs back in the mid to upper 60s, and warmer on Thanksgiving Day with sunshine, highs between 71 and 75. I'm active with the meteorologist Brian Thompson on KFBK, Sacramento's News Radio. 63 degrees now in Sacramento. John Bernizzi, KFBK News Radio.
Latest update in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news the second it happens on KFBK News Radio. Sacramento's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon and welcome aboard. Happy Tuesday to you. John McGinnis with you, KPK News Radio live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app and your smart speaker. Hope you're having a great day on this Thanksgiving week, getting nearer and nearer that great day of gratitude and Thanksgiving. I want to talk a little bit about that later in the program in terms of the psychological benefits of expressing gratitude and actually reflecting upon gratitude. It looks like the data is rather compelling that it is good for a person to acknowledge gratitude and express gratitude. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in Israel and Gaza. There's some information there to be updated on, certainly. It looks as though there's some hope that negotiations are working in the right direction for the release of hostages. Of course, after 240 Israelis have been held hostage in Gaza for 45 days, now Hamas and Israel are reportedly nearing an agreement that would result in the release of multiple hostages. Sources claim that negotiations include the release of 50 hostages, who are women and children, in exchange for 3 Palestinian prisoners for every Israeli release. Additionally, Hamas is demanding a 4 to 5 day ceasefire that would prohibit Israel from flying surveillance drones in northern Gaza and the delivery of hundreds of fuel trucks that would power and ventilate Hamas's elaborate tunnel network, as opposed to supplying the depleted hospital generators. Again, that's flying drones to monitor that's not a hostile act. So I'm skeptical at best, but certainly hopeful. So what is likely to happen next is that Israel's War Cabinet and Security Cabinet are meeting now to finalize the deal through questions clearly remain still regarding Hamas's ability to follow through on the hostage release. As for Mr. Netanyahu, he says, we are making progress. I don't think it's worth saying too much, not at even this moment, but I hope there will be good news soon. So that's where things are. It would be wonderful to see a release of the hostages, but I think they have to understand that they're dealing with a group of people that is their antics are terrorists in nature. These are people who put babies in ovens, raped and set fire to women who were doing nothing but living their life in their homes, obviously back on October 7th. So I'm very, very, very skeptical, dubious as it relates to the likelihood of a good deal being reached. But I certainly hope so. And I applaud those who have the patience and tenacity to work toward that and try to make it work. So a couple of other things I want to just touch on. There's all kinds of information that's coming out now as it relates to the DEI effort. Some might call it a scam at Ohio State University. And of course, you talk about an institution that is just absolutely a very, very proud institution, the Ohio State University. But now a search committee seeking a professor of military history rejected one applicant, and I quote, for this reason, because his diversity statement demonstrated poor understanding of diversity and inclusion issues. This is a person who was otherwise qualified to be a professor of military history. Another committee noted that an applicant to be a professor of nuclear physics could understand the plight of minorities in academia because he was married to, and this is not a joke, this is in the report, this is the language, an immigrant in Texas in the age of Trump. So, I mean, it's somebody who obviously his credential or her credential, I don't know what the gender of the person is, but somebody who had the background and academic expertise in nuclear physics had an added advantage because they were married to an immigrant in Texas. I don't know if that's a person who was a legal immigrant or somebody who was an illegal immigrant. Those are critical distinctions, right? And have nothing whatsoever to do with that person's ability to teach, especially a very, very, very complex field of scientific study, such as nuclear physics. So these examples actually are a product of more than 800 pages of diversity faculty recruitment reports at Ohio State University, which have been released now through a public records request. And until recently, Ohio State's College of Arts and Sciences required every search committee to create such a report, which had to be approved by various deans before finalists for a job were interviewed. There's a full story on this in the Wall Street Journal, and I think it illustrates so many problems that we have, and it's a topic of conversation frequently here, an element of I think, very, very good, robust conversation that's enlightening, that tends to illustrate the need for the acceptance of truth, the acceptance of facts as they are, and not clouding or diluting the analytical conclusions that are reached based upon some emotional desire to make things different than they are. It's just that simple, and we've gotten so far off the path, I think, in recent decades. There was a time, I think, when people were always had their emotional beliefs, and emotions could influence, I think, otherwise good pragmatic judgment. But at some point, after looking at all of the data, people, myself included, you want to believe something. You really, truly want to believe it. But you look at all of the statistical data, all the hard empirical information on a given topic, and you say, this does not comport with what the fact is I want to see them. This takes me in a different direction. It looks as though that ability, that analytical process, is really, truly been lost. And you see it, I think, very much present in the war in Israel right now. What's taking place there? People they want to believe something other than what the facts tend to illustrate, and they get sidelined in terms of any kind of sensible, rational conclusions to be reached through an element of analysis. And to see it happening in this particular case, as it relates to Hamas and Israel. In institutes of higher education, that is extraordinarily difficult to actually gain admission.
Napa.
So people have to come to that equation. They have to come to that place, seeking admission to many of the Ivy League schools and other prestigious universities. So they come to that place. They come to that point in life with pretty high intellect. There's evidence of that. Yet somewhere along the line, all of the good intellectual thought and analysis is pushed aside for emotions, and this DEI effort, I think, is part and parcel of that whole challenge that we're facing, and it creates a truly a diluted view of the world, and until and unless we get to the point where people in positions of power and authority can actually articulate the need for truth and critical analysis and accepting the
Man, Napa I hate Napa. I hate areas like this where drivers are bad, just like the bicyclists are even worse.